Progressives would say, you know what, I'm going to risk getting on this plane, that something might go wrong. My civil liberties are more important than your repression in this instance. And then, 5 seconds later going, actually, we must have safety at all costs, and freedom is a dirty word. So, and I can't entirely explain to you how that happened. But what I can say is I think it was a combination of organic and an inorganic process, and the inorganic part is all of this government money that flowed into it to incentivize these NGOs and the academic institutions to essentially change the culture around speech to make it acceptable to start censoring people if they were the wrong kind of people, if they were, anti-vaxxers, Russian stooges, like you name it, there's essentially a pejorative for every single person who has the wrong opinion. And I think but I don't think it would have been possible because so much of this work is front-facing, right? You can't kind of take this content down without people noticing. You need to have these organizations, like there are obviously this kind of new style, which is more terrifying emerging, but essentially everything's been proxied through these social, cultural, political organizations. It also means you can reverse it in that you can convince those people that they're doing the wrong thing, and this is not in the spirit of what free speech and free expression and democracy, as we're told repeatedly, is meant to be about.
And here, if I may follow with question to Claire, because, well, I sort of understand when, for instance, a big pharmaceutical company which had $100 billion of dollars of profits of some product is spending money on social networks and media to promote the product and to promote the policies which lead to consumption of the product. I quite understand when somebody who manufactures arms proposes policies which leads to consumption of arms. But what I don't understand is actually the position of the left, because as I understood the concept of left, it is protection of interests of working people who produce the value and who end up in any wars as soldiers and who need to pay from their taxes all the costs of a failed, for instance, pandemic procurement or things like this, and who cannot escape all the things like lockdowns and things like this, whereas rich people can go to some other part of planet where it is freer. But what moves the left politicians via these directions, Claire?
It's an absolutely impossible question for me to answer. I mean, myself and Mick were in the left group for 5 years here, and we didn't really find too much leftism going on in it, to be honest. I think the left lost its way on an awful lot of issues. It would probably take us all afternoon to deal with that. But I think we're kind of talking about a bigger problem, if you like, because this is a whole of society shift. Like, how did we go from the place where, as Andrew said, a job in the media used to be, when you grew up, you wanted to be in investigative journalism because that's what journalism did. It held power to account. People wanted to be revolutionaries, to change society, to do all these things. But suddenly now we're in an era where, as you say, this fact-checking exists. And I think the reason why the people have no CVs and don't have the expertise is that they're the precisely right people for the job, because they don't want people with expertise. They want people who will promote the official narrative of that. That is their job. And that is the job that has become the job, if you like, of mainstream media, which has been gutted out of any sense of independence or so on, and is now really filled with, apparatchiks who, it's not the same media that it was, which is why people are moving away. Phidias is right, they're moving in the direction of social media. That gives us a huge opportunity, but obviously the powers that be, as we've discussed, are moving to clamp down on that space as well. And do we trust the arbiters of some US tech company to moderate our content any more than I trust Michael McGrath or the European Liberals? No, I don't. Because truth is different things to different people. And we have to move away from this thing that it's black and white, that things are black and white. They're not. They're grey, because your perspective